Hello everybody, this is David. Welcome back to my channel. We are continuing in our series, our study of the Bible, and we've got to the book of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy is the fifth book of the law, the fifth book of Moses, the fifth book in the Torah. Very interesting book, and as usual I won't be able to do it justice in one or two videos, so I'm going to do a series of videos based on a study that was done by the American Indian Bible Institute based in California. So if you're ready, let's go for it. You know, the book of Deuteronomy is essentially three speeches that was given by Moses to the people, where God had instructed him to review their history, and we're going to be looking at that. We will be looking at the whole book as we go through these studies. So the people of Israel had wandered in the wilderness for 40 years since the Lord had given the law to Moses at Mount Sinai. During that time, all of those over 20 years of age that had heard the law had died, except for Joshua and Caleb. The new generation that had become adults since the people had left Mount Sinai were now ready to enter into the land that God had promised to Israel. But before the people went into this land of promise, God told Moses to give the people a review of their history. It's always good to know your history. Then Moses was to give the people a review of the law, because God knew that many of the parents had failed to teach their children the commandments of the Lord. Oh dear, sounds just like our day, doesn't it? So, as we begin our study of Deuteronomy, we get a real picture of the terrible results of sin. From Mount Sinai, it was only an 11-day journey to the land that God had promised to Israel. However, because of the sin and rebellion of the people of Israel, it took the people 40 years from the time they left Mount Sinai until they entered into the land that God had promised them. When the people had been at Mount Sinai, God had told them that they had stayed there long enough. It was time for them to go into the land that God had promised them. So let's have a look at now Deuteronomy chapter 1, verses 1 to 21. And this is where we'll start to read the book. These are the words which Moses spoke to all Israel on this side of the Jordan, in the wilderness, in the plain opposite Suph, between Paran, Tophel, Laban, Hazeroth, and Dizahab. It is 11 days' journey from Horeb by the way of Mount Seir to Kadesh Barnea. Now it came to pass in the 40th year, in the 11th month, on the first day of the month, that Moses spoke to all the children of Israel according to all that the Lord had given him as commandments to them, after he had killed Sihon, king of the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon, and Og, king of Bashan, who dwelt at Ashtaroth in Edrei. On this side of the Jordan, in the land of Moab, Moses began to explain this law, saying, The Lord our God spoke to us in Horeb, saying, You have dwelt long enough at this mountain. Turn and take your journey, and go to the mountains of the Amorites, to all the neighbouring places in the plain, in the mountains and in the lowland, in the south and on the sea coast, to the land of the Canaanites, and to Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates. See, I have set the land before you. Go in and possess the land which the Lord swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give to them and their descendants after them. And I spoke to you at that time, saying, I alone am not able to bear you. The Lord your God has multiplied you, and here you are today as the stars of heaven in multitude. May the Lord God of your fathers make you 1,000 times more numerous than you are, and bless you as he has promised you. How can I alone bear your problems and your burdens and your complaints? Choose wise, understanding, and knowledgeable men from among your tribes, and I will make them heads over you. And you answered me and said, the thing which you have told us to do is good. So I took the heads of your tribes, wise and knowledgeable men, and made them heads over you, leaders of thousands, leaders of hundreds, leaders of 50s, leaders of 10s, and officers for your tribes. It was very well organized. Then I commanded your judges at that time, saying, hear the cases between your brethren, and judge righteously between a man and his brother, or the stranger who is with you. You shall not show partiality in judgment. You shall hear the small as well as the great. You shall not be afraid in any man's presence, for the judgment is God's. The case that is too hard for you, bring to me, and I will hear it. And I commanded you at that time all the things which you should do. So we departed from Horeb and went through all that great and terrible wilderness which you saw on the way to the mountains of the Amorites, as the Lord our God had commanded us. Then we came to Kadesh Barnea, and I said to you, you have come to the mountains of the Amorites which the Lord our God is giving us. Look, the Lord your God has set the land before you. Go up and possess it, as the Lord God of your fathers has spoken to you, and do not fear or be discouraged. We'll carry on shortly. So, the Lord had promised the land to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, and as a result, all the people had to do was go into the land and possess it, because the Lord God would drive out their enemies. The Lord had also promised to make the people such a great nation that their numbers could not even be counted. Moses had realized that the people were already such a large nation that he could not rule them by himself. Then the people had agreed with Moses that it was a good idea to have men selected from each tribe to lead the people of that tribe. These men were given the responsibility of judging the cases of the people from their tribe. Now, when judges were judging a case, it was common in the surrounding countries for the judge to give the advantage to those who are rich. Same today, unfortunately. God said that the people of Israel were not to judge in that way. The rich and the poor were to be treated as equals. Today, unfortunately, many people still favour the rich and forget the poor. However, all people are created equal in the sight of God. So then Moses told the judges that the hard cases should be brought to him so that he could let God show how that particular case should be judged, so that the people would know the will of God. So when the people reached Kadesh Barnea, they had come to the edge of the land that God had promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God had promised that he would give them that land. As a result, the Lord told the people not to be afraid or discouraged. However, the people had been afraid. The people had come to Moses and suggested that they send spies ahead to search out the land before the entire nation entered the land. Then the 12 spies had been sent to go and search out the land. These spies had returned to say that the fruit of the land was very good. In fact, the land was a wonderful land. We're now going to carry on reading the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 1, from verse 22 now to 46. Let's see what this says. And every one of you came near to me and said, Let us send men before us, and let them search out the land for us, and bring back word to us of the way by which we should go up, and of the cities into which we shall come. And the plan pleased me well. So I took 12 of your men, 1 man from each tribe, and they departed and went up into the mountains and came to the valley of Eshcol and spied it out. They also took some of the fruit of the land in their hands and brought it down to us. And they brought back word to us, saying, It is a good land which the Lord our God is giving us. Nevertheless, you would not go up, but rebelled against the command of the Lord your God, and you complained in your tents, and said, Because the Lord hates us, he has brought us out of the land of Egypt to deliver us into the hand of the Amorites to destroy us. That was their common complaint, wasn't it? That's their the complaint they made the most. Where can we go up? Our brethren have discouraged our hearts, saying, The people are greater and taller than we. The cities are great and fortified up to heaven. Moreover, we have seen the sons of the Anakim there. More excuses. Then I said to you, Do not be terrified or afraid of them. The Lord your God, who goes before you, he will fight for you, according to all he did for you in Egypt before your eyes, and in the wilderness, where you saw how the Lord your God carried you, as a man carries his son, in all the way that you went until you came to this place. Yet for all of that you did not believe the Lord your God, who went in the way before you to search out a place for you to pitch your tents, to show you the way you should go in, the fire by night and in the cloud by day. So there was a penalty for Israel's rebellion. So let's look at that now. Verse 34, And the Lord heard the sound of your words, and was angry, and took an oath, saying, Surely not one of these men of this evil generation shall see that good land of which I swore to give it to your fathers, except Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, he shall see it, and to him and his children I am giving the land on which he walked, because he wholly followed the Lord. The Lord was also angry with me for your sake, saying, Even you shall not go in there. Joshua, the son of Nun, who stands before you, he shall go in there. Encourage him, for he shall cause Israel to inherit it. Moreover, your little ones and your children, who you say will be victims, who today have no knowledge of good and evil, they shall go in there. To them I will give it, and they shall possess it. But as for you, turn and take your journey into the wilderness by the way of the Red Sea. Then you answered and said to me, We have sinned against the Lord. We will go up and fight, just as the Lord our God commanded us. And when every one of you had girded on his weapons of war, you were ready to go up into the mountain. And the Lord said to me, Tell them, Do not go up nor fight, for I am not among you, lest you be defeated before your enemies. So I spoke to you, yet you would not listen, but rebelled against the command of the Lord, and presumptuously went up into the mountain. And the Amorites who dwelt in that mountain came out against you, and chased you as bees do, and drove you back from Seir to Hormah. Then you returned and wept before the Lord, but the Lord would not listen to your voice, nor give ear to you. So you remained in Kadesh many days, according to the days that you spent there. So at Kadesh Barnea, the people chose to rebel against the Lord instead of obeying him. They complained in their tents that God had brought them out of Egypt to be destroyed by the Amorites. They complained because the people of the land were tall. The people of the land also had high walls around their cities. The people of Israel were especially afraid of the sons of Anakim because they were giants. Now Moses had tried to encourage the people. The people had seen the great things that the Lord had done for them in Egypt. They had seen the great things that the Lord had done in the desert. That was the reason Moses knew that the Lord would continue to do great things as the people entered into the land. So the Lord had been leading the people of Israel with a cloud during the day and a pillar of fire at night as they had travelled from Egypt to Mount Sinai. In spite of that fact, the people still refused to believe that the Lord would give them victory. When the Lord saw that the people refused to put their trust in him, God said that the older generation would not be allowed to enter into the land. The only ones over 20 years of age that God said would enter the land were Caleb and Joshua. They were allowed to enter the land because they had trusted the Lord when the rest of the people had rebelled. God said that the children of those who had rebelled would be the ones that would enter the land. So when the people heard that God was going to send them out into the desert to die, the people rebelled again. They decided that they would go out and fight against the people of the land. However, God had already spoken because of the rebellion of the people. The Lord did not go with the people when they went to fight against the Amorites. The Amorites won a great victory over the people of Israel. The people missed the opportunity to enjoy great blessings from the Lord because of their rebellion against him at Kadesh Barnea. So the people went out into the desert when they realized that they could not fight against the Amorites. There the people remained for a long time. In fact, they were in the desert near the Red Sea for most of the 40 years that they wandered in the wilderness. Finally, the word of the Lord came to Moses, saying it was time for the people of Israel to go in and possess the land that God had promised to them. God told the people to start north towards the land of promise, and they were not to fight the people of Edom as they went north. So we're going to have a look at chapter 2 now, verses 1 to 15. Which is subtitled in my Bible, The Desert Years. Then we turned and journeyed into the wilderness of the way of the Red Sea, as the Lord spoke to me, and we skirted Mount Seir for many days. And the Lord spoke to me, saying, You have skirted this mountain long enough. Turn northward, and command the people, saying, You are about to pass through the territory of your brethren, the descendants of Esau, who live in Seir, and they will be afraid of you. Therefore watch yourselves carefully, do not meddle with them, for I will not give you any of their land, no, not so much as 1 footstep, because I have given Mount Seir to Esau as a possession. You shall buy food from them with money that you may eat, and you shall also buy water from them with money that you may drink. For the Lord your God has blessed you in all the work of your hand. He knows your trudging through this great wilderness. These 40 years the Lord your God has been with you. You have lacked nothing. And when we passed beyond our brethren, the descendants of Esau who dwelt in Seir, away from the road of the plain, away from Elath and Ezion-Geber, we turned and passed by the way of the wilderness of Moab. Then the Lord said to me, Do not harass Moab, nor contend with them in battle, for I will not give you any of their land as a possession, because I have given Ar to the descendants of Lot as a possession. The Enim had dwelt there in times past, a people as great and numerous and tall as the Anakim. They were also regarded as giants, like the Anakim, but the Moabites call them Emim. The Horites formerly dwelt in Seir, but the descendants of Esau dispossessed them, and they destroyed them from before them and dwelt in their place, just as Israel did to the land of their possession, which the Lord gave them. Now rise and cross over the valley of the Zered. So we crossed over the valley of the Zered, and the time we took to come from Kadesh Barnea until we crossed over the valley of the Zered was 38 years, until all the generation of the men of war was consumed from the midst of the camp, just as the Lord had sworn to them. For indeed the hand of the Lord was against them, to destroy them from the midst of the camp until they were consumed. In other words, until they died. So the people of Israel paid the family of Esau or Edom for everything that they used as they went through the land of Seir. God also told the people to pay for everything that they used as they went through the land of Moab. We also see how the Lord had taken care of his people for the entire 40 years that they were in the desert. Even though they had rebelled against the Lord and refused to enter the land at Kadesh Barnea, God had not forgotten his people. God had supplied all of the needs of the people for the entire 40 years that they had wandered through the desert. We also read what some of the people that Israel met as they travelled were like. Now, the reason that the people of Israel had rebelled against God and had not entered the land when they had first come to the edge of it was due to the fact that the spies told the people about the sons of Anakim. The people of Israel had been afraid to fight the sons of Anakim because they were giants. However, as we read, the people of Israel had met other groups that were just as large as the Anakim, and God had given victory to Israel. We also read that it took 38 years for all of the men of Israel to die. That was exactly as God had promised, in order to make it a total of 40 years from the time that the people had left Egypt until they entered the land of promise. Now, after the rebellious men of Israel had died, God told Moses to go through the lands of Moab and Ammon. Ammon is modern-day Jordan. However, they were not to fight those people because God had given that land to Lot. God said that the first nation that Israel was to fight was the Amorites, who lived in the land of Heshbon. Their land began at the Arnon River. God promised that he would put fear in the hearts of the people because of what he would do to the Amorites. All of the surrounding nations would hear what the Lord had done for Israel when they fought against the Amorites. I'm going to continue reading Deuteronomy chapter 2, verses 16 to 37. So it was, when all the men of war had finally perished from among the people, that the Lord spoke to me, saying, This day you are to cross over at Ar, the boundary of Moab. And when you come near the people of Ammon, do not harass them or meddle with them, for I will not give you any of the land of the people in Ammon as a possession, because I have given it to the descendants of Lot as a possession. That was also regarded as a land of giants. Giants formerly dwelt there, but the Ammonites call them Zamzummim, a people as great and numerous and tall as the Anakim. But the Lord destroyed them before them, and they possessed them and dwelt in their place, just as he had done for the descendants of Esau, who dwelt in Seir, when he destroyed the Horites from before them. They possessed them, and they dwelt in their place, even to this day. And the Avim, who dwelt in villages as far as Gaza, the Caphtorim, who came from Caphtor, destroyed them and dwelt in their place. Rise, take your journey, and cross over the river Arnon. Look, I have given into your hand Sihon, the Amorite king of Heshbon, and his land. Begin to possess it, and engage him in battle. This day I will begin to put the dread and fear of you upon the nations under the whole heaven, who shall hear the report of you, and shall tremble and be in anguish because of you. And I sent messengers from the wilderness of Kedemoth to Sihon, king of Heshbon, with words of peace, saying, Let me pass through your land. I will keep strictly to the road, and I will turn neither to the right nor to the left. You shall sell me food for money that I may eat, and give me water for money that I may drink. Only let me pass through on foot, just as the descendants of Esau who dwell in Seir and the Moabites who dwell in Ar did for me, until I cross the Jordan to the land which the Lord our God is giving us. But Sihon, king of Heshbon, would not let us pass through, for the Lord your God hardened his spirit and made his heart obstinate, that he might deliver him into your hand, as it is this day. And the Lord said to me, See, I have begun to give you Sihon and his land over you. Begin to possess it, that you may inherit his land. Then Sihon and all his people came out against us to fight at Jahaz, and the Lord our God delivered him over to us, so we defeated him, his sons, and all his people. We took all his cities at that time, and we utterly destroyed the men, women, and little ones of every city. We left none remaining. We took only the livestock as plunder for ourselves, with the spoil of the cities which we took. From Ar, which is on the banks of the river Arnon, and from the city that is in the ravine, as far as Gilead, there was not one city too strong for us. The Lord our God delivered all to us. Only you did not go near the land of the people of Ammon, anywhere along the river Jabbok, or to the cities, or the mountains, or wherever the Lord our God had forbidden us. So God had caused the nations to become afraid of the people of Israel. These nations heard what the Lord was doing for Israel and became so afraid that the people hardly had enough courage to even try to fight against Israel. Now they could not fight very well because of their fear. When Israel reached the edge of the land of Heshbon, Moses sent a letter to the king asking for permission to go through that land. Moses had promised that the people would stay on the highway. The people of Israel also promised to pay for any food or water that they used as they travelled through Heshbon. However, Sihon, king of Heshbon, refused to let the people of Israel pass through his land. Instead, God hardened the heart of Sihon so that he chose to come against Israel with his army. Moses had given the king of Heshbon the opportunity to avoid destruction. However, Sihon chose to fight against Israel. God had said to Abraham 400 years earlier that the sins of the Amorites must be judged. As a result, God had hardened the hearts of Sihon so that he chose to fight against the land of Israel instead of just letting them pass through his land. So the Lord gave Israel a great victory over Sihon and the Amorites. The army of Sihon was completely destroyed. In addition, the people of Israel also completely destroyed the cities and the people of Heshbon. The destruction was so complete that none of the people of Heshbon remained. the people of Israel took the cattle and the possessions of all the people of Heshbon. We also see the reason why the people of Israel were able to defeat the cities of Heshbon. We read that the Lord was the one that gave them victory. He was the one that had fought for Israel. Now, when God fights for us, no one can stand against us. So that's the end of the first video, our introduction to Deuteronomy. We see that God is on the side of the Jewish people. So I want to thank you for joining me in this video. See you in the next one. Bye bye.